Hopefully by this time all of you have heard this terminology, chronic absenteeism. A few years ago, someone contacted me to ask me about chronic absenteeism numbers, and I told them I'd never heard of it at all. So it was new to me. The federal government had started talking about it. They've been sending us information about it for a while. And really the main thing I think with chronic absenteeism is for years we focused on truancy and counting the number of days that a kid is out unexcused. And really and truly, we had kids who were missing months of school, but it was excused, but they were still missing their instruction. And it was hurting those students, but we were not concentrating on getting those kids back. We were concentrating on making sure they had a good excuse to be out and making sure they didn't have over 6 unexcused absences. And so we're kind of maybe not shifting away from that. We still want to keep track of the truancy and make sure the kids are in school when they should be. But we know that it is hurting these kids being out this much of school. And so we're looking at ways to encourage kids to come back. Truancy is almost a punitive thing, you know, where you're going to get in trouble, you've got this many days unexcused. But for chronic absenteeism, we want to make that a positive thing. Make it positive that the kids come to school. And so we're looking at this from a little bit different perspective than we do with truancy. So here's our federal definition. They kind of sent us some very vague things at first, but they have finally defined it very well. It's a student who misses 10% more or more of their enrolled days. Tardies don't count. Their comment is if they're absent over 50% of the day is defined by the state, then they count. We don't count somebody 50% of the day tardy. We count them half a day absent. So it really is truly just whole day and half day absences that count. And the student must be enrolled at least 10 days. So when I originally pulled some of this stuff, and you may have seen some of the early pulls that I did trying to kind of get a grasp on what was going on, we had kids that were 50% absent because they were enrolled 2 days and absent 1 of them. So that's no longer the case. They have to be enrolled at least 10 days before we even look at them. And that 10 days, 1 day absent would be chronic absent because they have missed 10% of their days. So this is the federal definition. I will tell you that we have been meeting here at KDE with several different offices. We've also involved the CDWs and some other outside agencies in a group meeting where we're discussing this and discussing ways that we can help districts with getting their kids back in school. And one of our first objectives was to come up with a state definition. We do not have to use the federal definition, and in talking to some DPPs, we felt like this really left us with some kids who were missing a lot of instruction who were not being counted as chronic absence. In Kentucky, we count up to 35% of the day as being tardy. You could have a kid who was tardy 50 or 60 days and never be chronically absent, even though they have missed a great portion of their instructional time. And so we decided that we didn't want to use this definition, and this is the definition that we have proposed for Kentucky. It's not in reg, it's not finalized yet, but this is what we're looking at, is a student who's chronically absent if they have missed a total of 17 days district-wide within a school year using FTE attendance. One of the things I didn't mention on the federal definition, they're looking at per school. So if you had a kid who jumps around from elementary school to elementary school to elementary school, and they had been 30 days here and 20 days there and 30 days over here and 50 days here, and they missed 10% in all of those, they could have been counted every one of those times as a chronically absent student in your district. They do not do it per student, they do it per enrollment. We decided that we wanted to look at their full enrollment as they jumped around, so all their days together, and using this FTE attendance. And this is what FTE attendance is. If you look at a student's profile, attendance profile report, there is a list there, and I can't see well enough to see what it says up there. It says FTE,
Percent FTE absent.
percent FTE absent. So this is the part of the day that they were absent. So if you notice on that top one, it says 100. They were absent 100% of the day. That's counting as 1 day absent. If you go down a little bit further to right before that big gap, there is one that says 18% of the day. They were not counted any absent at all. That was a tardy. But for our,
Something just popped. The bulb just blew.
I can't see my screen anymore. Oh, I'll look at that one. You all can see it. So if you look at that, that's when we total that all up. If that comes to more than 17, counting all of your enrollments in the district, then that's what we're counting as a chronically absent student. So several years ago, the federal government gave us this goal. And I shared this with a lot of districts back at that time. They said that we wanted to reduce chronic absenteeism by 10% each year starting in 15-16. I think that's kind of funny that they said they wanted to do that because they don't have our 15-16 data. So maybe we did and maybe we didn't, but they're not going to know about it. This is the first year that the federal government is actually pulling chronic absenteeism data. So for your 16-17 year, we are going to be providing that to the federal government. It will be showing up, one of the things they split things out by and all that good stuff, but this is the first year we've actually reported it. So you can look back at your data and starting at 15-16 and see how did you do from 15-16 up to this current year, 16-17. Are your numbers going up? Are they going down? You can do those personal comparisons just to see where you're starting from, but this is the first year we're reporting it to the federal government.
And the reporting that we're doing to the federal government is the federal definition? Or
Yes,
state
the federal definition.
Federal
We
definition.
will not be sending the state definition has not even been approved as a
Right.
final definition.
And I
for
think
that.
that's going to be an ongoing, work that'll have to be done because the reporting that's required in school report card goes all the way down to the school level. The reporting that goes, it's by the federal definition. So we're going to have to be a little,
Right. And I think one of the reasons, Dee Dee, that the district level people wanted to use the FTE was it kind of gives them a little bit more, the numbers are going to be higher using that most of the time because you're counting those tardies, but it gives them an opportunity to work with those students even though they're not officially counting. And because we're concerned about their instruction.
Yeah.
I think as a parent, I hate to admit this, but before I got involved in education at all, and I had a son who was not wanting to go to school. He just wouldn't want to go. And I felt like the only thing they were concerned about was were they going to get that money for him. They didn't care whether he was there or not. As a matter of fact, they let him drop out of school at 14. I can't figure out how that happened, but I knew that once he missed 15 days, they weren't getting enough money for him, and they didn't care, and they sent him home to spend the rest of the year with me. So as a parent, I felt like they didn't care about my kid. They just felt they cared about that funding. And I think some of the parents still feel that way. We do get calls from parents that I hear that from them. With chronic absenteeism, we are talking about, we care about your kid. We want them here. This is the safest place your kid can be. We want them learning things so that they can have a better life. And we want this to be very positive to get them there. And so by using that FTE attendance for our local looking at it, it allows us to get some of those kids who are missing 15% of the day, 25% of the day, and get them back on track. So right now, what you can do, you want to know your numbers. How many kids did you have last year? How many do you have this year? Are you improving? How can you improve those numbers for next year when it's actually officially reported to the federal government? And so one of the things that we want to do is encourage those schools to get involved in this. As district level people, you don't have a whole lot of pull in getting Johnny to school every morning. That's more the teacher, the principal, those people that are in that school need to be working to encourage these kids. And so one of the things we want to look at is how do we encourage that school level day involvement to encourage the kids to get there.
Garnetta, just before you move on too far with that part, as if it wasn't enough that we have a federal definition and we're looking at a state definition, the civil rights data collection also has a different definition, and that's been pointed out. For that, students are considered chronically absent if they're absent 15 or more school days during the school year, and an absence for half the school day or more is counted as one day.
Wow.
So a lot to consider, and you need to know who your audience is and what you're looking at when you're looking at chronically absent.
I'm not sure that that has even come up in our meetings about chronic absenteeism, so I will take that to our next meeting and let them know that, because, you know, it's important to know who's counting what, and it's kind of crazy.
And there is some differences in working with whether they're excused absences or not. I know the federal definition includes excused absences.
Yes, ours does too. It doesn't include exempt absences, like we can allow a kid to be absent for up to 10 days for EHO. That's an educational opportunity. We count that just like they're in class. So any of those days that are exempt days are not counting towards your chronic absenteeism
For the
numbers.
state definition.
For either, exempt. Excused counts both places, federal and state. So this is an ad hoc that I put together that will pull based on the federal definition. There is a field that is in your ad hoc, and unfortunately, again, I can't see and I didn't print this.
You're going to have to.
But the field is called percent in attendance. And so in that, it's under attendance, then Kentucky official daily summary, Kentucky official summary, and then it's called percent in attendance in there. That percent in attendance does look at all of your enrollments across the district. It combines them together. I ran some numbers, and to me, that's definitely what it looks like it's doing. So if you're looking at anyone who is less than 90, then they have missed 10% or more of their attendance. So you can pull that pretty easily and get a list of those kids that district-wide have run it. If actually, it does it by school, I should say, not district-wide. So remember, the federal definition is by school. So you would want to run this for each school to get the list of the kids who are chronically absent in that school.
And while Garnetta's talking about, I think her slides are going to show you several different ad hocs that she's created. I believe her plan is to share those with me so that I can publish those out to you, so you don't need to create these
Right.
for yourself.
The next one. Thank you. This is the function for your FTE days. Because FTE, that number is not summed up anywhere in any of our summary pages on ad hoc, you will have to summarize that for yourself. And so to do that, you can create a function. And even though I'm going to push these down, I am going to go on and explain to you how I did these, simply because a lot of times you want to pull ad hocs for attendance things, district-wide, looking at attendance, and knowing how to pull this information is important for, you know, putting that attendance percentage on a query that you have about something else. And so in order to do that FTE total, you can create a function. I call this one FTE absent days, and it's a sum. And I went and under Kentucky attendance daily summary, if you notice the one right above it is official attendance summary, that's where that percent in attendance is. The attendance daily summary is the lines of each day, what their attendance is each day. And so it has the date on it and what the code used and all that stuff. And one of the fields in there is called absent truancy. Absent truancy actually has the FTE number, that 18, that was the 18% of the day that they were absent when they were tardy. And so if you do a sum of that, What it does is for each person ID, they total up all of those rows from all of the different schools, and it gives you a percent total, which is the total FTE attendance that they have missed. Once you create that function, you can use the function in the ad hoc, which is the Kentucky chronically absent, and in that you put your demographic information, whatever you want to pull about the kid, and then add your new function that you created for FTE absent days. And that way it will list each kid, and it will put the number of days, that summary number of their days they've missed. So what we want to do to encourage the school level involvement with this. One of the things that you can do is train your teachers and your admins to track those contacts with the parents and students and whatever, to track those in Infinite Campus. If they are putting those in Infinite Campus, then there's a way to monitor that. And we all know that what you monitor is what winds up getting done. So if we just say, oh, it'd be really nice if you'd call Johnny when he's absent, then it might happen, but more likely it won't. But if you say, I'm going to pull these monthly reports and provide them to your principal that will list how many times you have called your students, and, you know, the principal may want to have a contest between the, you know, teachers and report who's doing a good job keeping their attendance up because they're contacting the kids. So having it where you can monitor it is a way that you can do that. You might want to have competitions between schools. So all your elementary schools, who can have the best attendance. We do that now on that high attendance day, but we can do that more times throughout the year for who has the best attendance for each school month through the 10 months of the year, and have a banner that they have in their school for high attendance. You might want to provide rewards to individual students who miss less than 2 days a month. Did you realize that if you miss 2 days a month for the whole year, that's going to be over the chronic absenteeism? And sometimes when we start out and we have a kid who misses a lot at the first of the year, and they're saying, well, I'm already in trouble, I may as well just miss a bunch more days, you've kind of lost them from the very beginning. So if you have competitions that say, for this month, for January, for February, for month 1 on your school months, however you want to set it up, have a competition that during that month they miss less than 2 days, and then provide some kind of reward for that. And it can be something pretty small. I know one school, when they have their attendance rewards, things like this, I think I went too far, didn't I?
Go back.
I'm clicking that thinking it's going to turn this. So, okay, let's look at these things individually. First of all, we're going to track the teacher's attendance. One of the best places. Oh,
Need to go one more. There you go.
now we're right together. Yeah, that looks good. Wish our light hadn't gone out here. So, in order to track that, the best place I think is that PLP contact log. Because the reason I think that's a good place to put it, it already puts your attendance letters in there automatically. You can set that up to where those, when you create attendance letters to send out to parents, that already goes in there. And this puts that other contact information right in there with it. If you click on New on that screen, what happens is this little screen pops up, and it already puts the time in that you're putting the information in. So it's real nice if you've got your phone here and you're just putting it in while you're talking to the parent. But you have other things besides telephone. There's a drop-down list of what types of contacts there are. And you can put in the contact, who did you talk to? Did you talk to grandma? Did you talk to mom? Did you talk to the student? Whatever, who it was that you contacted, and then you have a text field that you can write information about what you found out when you talked to them. So you called mom and you found out Johnny has the flu and he's probably going to be out for 2 weeks. If you already know that, you know, there's really not any need to call mom every day to say, has Johnny still got the flu? So it's real good that you put this in here so that when the next person goes to call, they pull it up and they say, oh, he was contacted yesterday. Well, Johnny has the flu. No wonder he's still out. So this gives them a way that they can see who else has contacted them and what they found out when they contacted them. This drop-down list may not be the same thing that you have in your district. It may be what's already put in there for you. I'm not really sure. The district that I was using, this is what they had. But if there's something here you don't want your teachers to pick, or if there's something else that you want to add to your list to get a better list of things to look at, there's a real easy way to add that. And if you go to System Admin, Custom Attribute Dictionary, and you scroll down until you find Contacts, and under that there is another contact that says, here's your list of the drop-down items. That is a list that you can change. You can delete stuff off of it. You can make it inactive so that it stays if somebody has picked it in the past, but they can't pick it anymore. You can add new ones to it. If you want to add a new one, all you have to do is click Add New and fill in the information, and it'll put it right on the list. So that's available to you, and you can make it customizable to your needs in your district.
This is something that probably only your system administrator is going to have tool rights to, so if there's something that you'd like added, you'll need to talk with your district system administrator.
Very good. Thank you for reminding me of that. So once you've got teachers putting this in, remember I said you might want to provide a report back to the principal monthly about what's going on and what's being commented on these students and things like that. So you can create this ad hoc for your principals that just lists the students' information and that information on each one of those contacts, and they can get a list of, you know, it was Johnny on this day, the teacher called the student and this is what they found out, and have the comments all there to where they can see it. This includes the date that those comments were made. So if you want to do a monthly report, it's pretty easy to go in there and add a value to that so that you can say in the operator list, select between, and then put your first date that you want to look at the contacts from, so that maybe the first month of school you want to do August the 13th of 2017, and you want to end that on September the 15th of 2017. And so you can type, when you pick between, it gives you 2 boxes to put those dates in. You just need to be sure and put your date in with the like 08/13/2017, so that you get that full date in that format. Sometimes when you put other formats in, it doesn't pull anything back because it doesn't like that, but I know it likes that format. So you can just put that in there between that, and it will pull that information just for that time period. When we put these things in the state published folder, you can't change them. You can't go in there and put that date in there. Those are locked. They're locked for a reason because they're set up to pull certain information that we want you to be able to pull. But it's really easy to just select that and then hit copy, and that automatically creates a copy up in your list of ad hocs, and then you can go in and make any changes to that and share it with whatever group you want to so that they're able to run it. So you might want to copy this, share it with your principals, and have it for them to have. So we were talking about the competitions between schools or homerooms. If you're going to do that, what you need to think about is what's going to motivate the ones who are habitually absent. That might be a whole different group of kids than the kids that might like having extra time to go to the library. That might not thrill them at all, you know? You need to think about who is it I'm trying to get back in school and what's going to motivate them to get here. One of the schools that I went to, I thought this was the coolest thing. I actually got to see their motivational thing that they used for attendance. They brought in a group of sophomores to work on some stuff with us, and they were carrying a wrestling belt. You know those big, heavy leather with a big metal thing in the middle? Well, these boys were carrying it, and they were so thrilled. They won the attendance reward. Well, the big metal thing in the middle was their school motto thing, their emblem, and they got to carry it around with them from class to class, whoever had the highest attendance percentage for the previous week. And so every week, a new class was awarded the wrestling belt. Well, who cared about that? Those boys that they were having trouble getting in school before. So, when you're meeting with your people to talk about doing this, what's going to motivate our kids? Who are the ones that are missing? What will get them here?
Cornetta, one of our districts has shared that they have an attendance competition that coincides with the NCAA basketball tournament brackets.
Cool.
And so they center their competition around that, one of their competitions.
Yeah.
So.
If you've got anything like that you'd like to share with us, let me know about it, and we'll send it out to all the DPPs so they can get some new ideas to work with this kind of stuff. So there are a lot of ways to make this fun. Some things about what privileges can be rewards for winning. When I taught school, my last class of the day, one of the rewards I would give them based on different things we were doing was who got to line up at the door to go to the bus. Everybody else had to sit in their seat, but these kids that won that privilege, and it was so crazy. It was such a minor thing. It didn't cost me anything, but it meant the world to them to get to be the first ones out the door. How easy is that to make that a privilege for them to win, and it doesn't cost you any money? So try to think of those kind of things that can help you encourage those kids. Oh, Lord. I never run out of time. I just am excited about telling you about this. I don't have a whole lot left, but
I do have a question I want to share with you. Should attendance staff at each school enter their calls that they make each day, excuse me, to absent students whose parents have not called in the contact log?
I think that would be a good thing to put in there. Again, if a teacher knows that Johnny's absent and she's going to call him to talk about, what we did in school today, and sorry you missed, it was really fun. You really want those teacher contacts to be positive. And if she opens up that contact log and the attendance clerk has already put that information in, then she already knows what's going on. And at that point, she can decide, does she still need to call? She can still call them a second time if it's something she wants to tell them. But she may decide, I realize there's a funeral and they're out of town and I really don't need to call. So yes, I think that would be a great thing to do. Quick things that we have already talked about for missing 2 days a month. Recognition stickers are good for little kids. Don't do that in high school. They won't be happy. But one thing I thought of is a congratulation letter to the parents. I'm going to tell you, having had a kid who didn't want to go to school, having somebody from the school tell me that your kid missed a bunch last month, and I really want you to know how much I appreciate you getting them to school this month. They only missed 1 day, would have meant the world to me. So think about those kind of things that encourage the parents to help you get those kids into school. The last thing is some resources. Of course, your field staff's always available. There is a web page. It's called Attendance Works. And it is an awesome page. It tells you all about what the chronic absenteeism is and how it compares to truancy. It has lots of cool ideas to work with teachers to get them to get the kids to come into school. The URL for that is just www.attendanceworks.org, O-R-G at the end of it. And it's an awesome page. If you haven't been there, go look at it. It really will give you a lot of good information. And go back to, the only thing I have left is the, any questions, and I think we've been taking those as they go along.
Yeah, well, we've had one more come in. On the PLP ad hoc, we have not been able to get the staff's name, just the staff number, and then have to look it up. Do you know a way around this?
I do not. And I wish there was a better way to get that. It is true that and I tried to look at ways of saying the staff number equals the staff number and get that to pull in. I can do that in a SQL query. I cannot do that on ad hoc.
Something
So
we could do a report that if it's needed.
yeah,
And-
and Dee Dee brings up a good point. She had previously mentioned that if there were reports that you wanted, that, to let them know that they want to create ones that will help you. If that is something that would help you to be able to have that staff name in there, let us know. We can build those type of reports to pull things that you can't pull in ad hoc.